like conferences,
Mhm.
Um,
So we met earlier in person, but it was easier to do the recording like this later on. So um, I think so far, I Positive has been doing this. Um, like I feel like you're great at being supportive around coming up with good questions to like deepen critical thinking and to offer different ideas. Um, like like you brought up, you mentioned it in class on the discussion board too about the tokenism piece, but just having the time to kind of further have a conversation about that in person was really helpful. And also, I can't remember the phrase that you used, but you're talking about the losses and gains kind of in that process of like losing ground in some places in order to gain ground in others. And that was like a really helpful reflection to hear back. Um, and then as far as kind of like supporting each other and making sure that the time, like I think the first time we met, we ended up having a really great organic conversation because it was like the first time we had talked about, um, kind of what we were doing in general. So that seemed really natural. And we brought like the outlines and everything, but then we more conversation going. And then this time we didn't have access to those right then and there. So um, where there's an organic conversation around it the first time, it seemed like this time we kind of did need the structure. So just kind of working on having a solid goal, I think, moving forward would be good.
well, thanks for that feedback, and it's good to hear that it has been a useful experience so far. That's been productive. Um, because stepping into it, I just didn't know exactly how um, the dynamic would form exactly. Like, yeah, I felt really grounded with the tools, but then when we got together, I felt like, oh, well, that doesn't seem necessary. It feels like we should be more organic and um, we should just like go with the flow, basically. So it's different than what I expected because it was useful just the same as much as we were able to weave in our personal histories even and like the professional learnings in the field and the classroom and just exploring all of it together. Um, I thought was really nice. And then like you were saying, this time it felt like I needed to like you know regroup in a way, and and so that's why that tool is so necessary in terms of just a reference point. Um, but one of the things that I had really appreciated in our conversation today was the discussion around um, just like power dynamics in our internship from last conversation and this conversation today, um, and also just how we were able to take in the good with the bad. There's a lot of challenges in our placements. I mean, you in particular up against a lot of kind of like the hierarchical pressure, I guess you could say. And I know I'm dealing with this situation where there's no structure, and so I'm having to create that, and that's been a challenge for me because I typically like structure. Um, but yeah, so one of the things that I found really helpful from today's conversation, at least, was your resource sharing. You're saying, oh well, maybe you could check in with the county or the city's equity bureau and um, get to know like what they've had, you know, what kind of successes they've had, and doing the same and facilitating the same kind of group that I have an idea to start. Um, so yeah, I think that's where I'm at with it. It's awkward to me because it's a very intentional relationship, and I've never been good at networking. I felt, like I always feel fake in those kind of like really rigid professional environments. So I tend to avoid them. And um, approaching this friendship, quote unquote, it's just not my like idea of what friendship is necessarily. So the concept in and of itself kind of throws me. But I'm finding it useful too. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I really appreciated working on it too. I didn't know what to expect as well. So, so I'm gonna